big question. Big question. Hi, Charmaine. That Karen, I think, posed earlier. Who hasn't folded their book yet? Who's been a good person and not? Oh, Carolyn, I can't do hot. I really can't. I don't envy you at all. It could be Newton Heath, Jill. It could, but I don't think it is. Oh, New England. Oh, another beautiful place in the fall. Hi, Sandra. So, yeah, come on, ladies and gents, if there's any here, Mark. Who has folded their book? I've been good. I haven't. And I was going to cover it, but then I realised it would be easier after I folded it, so I have waited. Karen, you folded yours. Or you haven't folded yours. I can't remember what you said earlier. Right. So, I'm going to fold mine. Oh, Nicola. Do you know what? I don't blame you. Waiting is not the easiest thing. So, let's start off this evening by folding our books. So, you can either use a ruler or I'm going to use my bone folder. And we're just going to figure out where the fold is. And you need to be a bit gentle. This is one of the few occasions where you need to be a bit gentle. And just work out where the fold is and just carefully push up your book, and it will suddenly, like that, just click. This is the scary bit, because this is when you find out that you haven't put your hinges in straight, or at least that's what happened to me. I know, big bonus erase, Liz. Right. See on this side, yep, it just suddenly clicks and folds, and there we go. So that's my book folded. Trouble with black, it just makes such a mess. All right, so that's done. That seems to be pretty much as it should be. Miraculously, my hinges are pretty straight. That doesn't always happen. Even after years of experience, that doesn't always happen. So there we go. Oh, good, Karen. I think I need to, well, I don't, Mark's been upgrading mine, so it's a lot better than it was, but it does stick sometimes. So, right. I'm going to cover, I decided on which papers I was going to use. So when people say, you know, I make a quick decision on which papers I use where, and people say, how do you do that? My rule of thumb for me is I always put the papers that I like best where you're going to see them the most. So you can tell that my favourite papers out of this Graphic 45 farmhouse were these ones. So I've just cut them at the to fit the 10 inches by 12 inches. I've cut it 1/8 of an inch smaller, so I have cut it at 9 7/8 of an inch by 11 7/8 of an inch, so that I get my little black border. But obviously what I need to do is do my curvy bits. So this is going to be my inside, and this is going to be my outside, and then that's the spine. So we're going to cut those, and I just thought I'd just do one with you quickly, just so that you're comfortable with this, because obviously we've got quite a curve on. Oh, well done, Carolyn. We've got a bit of a curve on it. So what we're going to do is we're going to do it in exactly the same way as we did the curve on the original bit of chipboard, blackboard, I can't remember what we called it now, grey board. And this is the point where I discover I've lost my compass. I haven't. So I'm just going to measure in, find out where my 1 inch point is on the back of my paper. Okay, I know you can't see this very well because obviously I'm doing grey on black, but trust me, it is there. And I'm just going to measure my inch there, pop that on the cross that we've just made. Ooh. And then I'm just going to draw.
Oh, Carol's cracked her spine.
You've cracked your spine? Oh no. Do you know what? Spine cracking is a pain in the spine. And you can't always help it. Some some papers just naturally crack, and no matter how careful you are, it's gonna crack. I think using Tyvek helps a bit, but also being super gentle with it will help as well. However, sometimes it just cracks. There's a few things that you can do to deal with that. If mine cracks, what I do is I just get a little bit of PVA and I just use my finger to dab it over so that it kind of sticks in one place. Sue Cass, Sue, you were here earlier. Sue suggested using bookbinding tape, which I bought the other day so I could have a go. That is another solution. But if anybody's got any other ideas of how they deal with cracked spine, love to hear you. You know, to hear your suggestions. So if you want to put them in the comments, that would be great, because it's not always, you know, sometimes you just can't do anything about it. I mean, I'm really lucky that the cardstock that I use just doesn't seem to crack. But I know that sometimes you can get a bad batch, all sorts of things, you know, reasons why they do crack. But it doesn't mean that it's the fault of the crafter. So don't worry about that. Okay. So that's my curved edge there, and I'm just going to do the other one the same way. So I'm going to find out where my 1 inch mark is by measuring 1 inch from both sides, and where those, I know you can't see this, I can barely see it, but there's a cross here that I know is exactly 1 inch in. Measure 1 inch with my compass and pencil, pop the point of the compass on where those two pencil marks intersect, and then I'm just going to draw, oh, I've knocked that, well, near enough. I'm just going to draw a curve there and then cut round there, so I get, I don't think I did that very well.
Do we have sizes?
For sizes for what? For my cover? Well, the cover that we've got is 10 inches by 12 inches. So I always cut my matted pieces at 1/8 of an inch smaller. So I cut this at 9 7/8 of an inch by 11 7/8 of an inch. Having said that, it depends on what you like your book to look at. I don't like too much of a gap from my cardstock. I like to see it, but not huge amounts of it. Some people like to see more, so they might cut it 1/4 of an inch smaller, whatever. Oh yeah, Charmaine, that's a great idea. Definitely fabric. And the other thing is as well, of course, one thing that I say quite regularly is that there is no such thing as a mistake. There is an opportunity to embellish. So if you didn't plan to put fabric on your spine, you might just find that if it's cracked and that's what you do, it might just be the finishing touch that you need and will end up looking spectacular. And I do find that these things quite often happen. So thank you, Charmaine. Yes, you're absolutely right. Right, so I'm just inking the edges of that. And I've lost my glue, which probably won't work because once again I didn't put the lid on it, because I never do. One day, all of these plans that I have for not getting gunky glue is going to work. But the only reason it happens is because it's me. It's my ineptitude every time, because I forget to put the lid on it. Okay, you see, this is very technical the way that I do this, as you can see. So now I'm just going to pop that on the cover of my book, make sure that it's all spaced right. There we go. Okay, so that's just how I'm going to do my covers. I've got my spine piece here, which will just go on there, and then the back, and then I'm just going to put plain paper on the insides. If you want to do a pocket, you can do a pocket, but we'll talk about that later. It's entirely up to you. I'm not going to on mine. So right, that's as much as I want to do with the cover today, because we've got quite a big bit to do. So you can, now you've folded your books, you can decorate your covers. So what we're going to do today? Well, last week we made page 1. This week we're going to make page 2. So just to take a look at it, we have got a magnetic closure here, and I'm not going to show you how to add magnets, but I have got a YouTube video which Mark will put the link up to, I hope, please darling, where it's only short, but it explains to you how I put my magnets on and how that all works. So you might find that really, really useful. So I'm going to get Mark to pop that up. So do take a look at the video, because it might just help you if you come to use your magnets. So we've got this page. It's 7.5 inches long. This one was 5 inches. So you can see that we've got graduated sizes on our pages. It's got this magnetic closure and these 2 little flaps here that have got actually gussets on them, because inside we've got stacked pockets. And actually I wasn't that clever with the papers that I used here, because you can't easily see that there's stacked pockets with you know, some tags in. So 3 different size tags, but we'll do the tags in another class anyway. But that's what we're going to make on the front of our page. So we've got that little fold away bit there with our magnetic closure, and then on the back we've got another magnetic closure here. We have got a faux waterfall, not like the one that we did in our Bloom Street book. This is a dead easy one, so I like to call it a faux waterfall, but actually it sits on a belly band. So these here, these tags go inside the belly band, so it's just a little bit of added interest. So that is what I want to do with you today. It's not going to go in. That's what I want to do with you today. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off by making our base page. I have put the sizes in the group, but bear with me, because you know what I'm like. So I tend to get at least one wrong, but let's hope for the best. So we're going to make the base pocket first. So you're going to need some of your 12 by 12 cardstock for this. And I want you to cut one piece at 10 by 7.5 inches. Now, the 7.5 inches, that is an immovable amount, because that is the width of our page. Now, when I say cut it to 10 inches, this particular piece, if you cut it just a smidge under the 10, you'll find it much easier to put the base page together. So I'm actually going to cut mine at 9 7/8. Okay, so just a smidge under the 10, and that'll become clear why in a... Did I actually cut that right? Yeah. Okay. So the next bit of our base page, I want you to cut at 7.5 by 11, and these are exact measurements, not the one, you know, where we've just had a bit of leeway. So 7.5 by 11. 7.5 by 11, let's get it right. Okay, and we're going to make the base page up before we do any of the fancy bits, so let's just do it a bit at a time. And we're going to grab our scoreboards, and the only bit that we're going to score for our base page is the 7.5 by 11 inch piece. So I want you to put it so that the 11 inch side is where we're going to score. So that's going to be the bit that goes at the top of your scoreboard. And I want you to score at 1/2 inch on the 11 inch side. And I want you to score at 10.5 inches on the 11 inch side. So all you've got on here are 2 parallel score lines, okay? One on each end. Now, you should find that that piece that we cut earlier, just a smidge under 10, will now fit perfectly between those 2 score lines. If we'd done it at 10, when we came to put this bit together, we might find that the page bows a bit. So that's why I always take a little bit off. So, fold on the score lines. See, you've got the 2 flaps there. Burnish them well. Oh. See my hand? Do you know what this was last night? Loki woke me up. about 4 or 5 times last night because he just wanted fuss. And at one point he was standing on my head and then managed to fall off the side of the bed and grabbed my hand on the way down. Great, isn't it, really? Kids and cats. So, yeah, cats. I'm not known a kid do that. So this is my base page now. That looks awfully short. No, that's right. Start worrying about these things. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add this page in. So if I slip that page that we haven't scored in between those 2 flaps there, you'll see that when I put it together, it sits perfectly flat. If we'd left it at 10, it probably would have ended up doing something a bit like that. And we don't want that, do we? So, right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just pop a little bit of glue on the inside of both of those flaps that we've just folded. So on the inside of that.
Sticky flaps.
Yep, sticky flaps, got to have them. Okay. And then we're going to get this piece that we haven't scored. And we're going to make sure that it fits nicely in there. And then we're just going to put our sticky flaps down on top. So this is exactly what we did last week with page 1. Okay, I'm just going to use my big boner to get my sticky flaps stuck. Yes. Okay. So that's my base page done. So I'm going to put that to one side to dry for a moment and I'm going to make the other bits. So we're going to work on the front bit first. So if you grab your trimmer. Oh, I've missed loads of chat. Hi, Claire. Right, okay, so I'm going to grab my trimmer and I am going to cut from my 12-inch cardstock because this is still quite a long... Actually, no, this would work out of A4, wouldn't it? Because it's only 10 inches. Yeah, you could use A4 for this bit, but I'm not going to because I've only got 12-inch out. I am going to cut 2 pieces at 3 3/4 by 10 inches. So if I cut that at 10 and then 3 3/4 inches. And I want 2 of those. And those are what form the outside flaps that hide our stacked pockets. Okay. Then I want to cut 1 piece at 1.5 inches by 8 1/4 inches, and this is what is going to form our closure. So this is 1.5 by 8 1/4 inches. So hang on, 1.5 by 8 1/4 inches. Okay, and that's going to form our closure. Now we need to cut the stack pockets, and you might find that some of the bits that we've got as offcuts here, the big boners at the moment, there's a story with the big boners. The big boners are currently somewhere between here and the US because my European supplier couldn't supply them because we'd sold them all, basically. It's a thing. So they're on their way, Charmaine, but they're just not available at this very second. But I have got loads of them coming, so I reckon everybody can have a big boner. Not that I like big boners, but anyway. Right, sorry, stack pockets. So we want to cut 1 at 6 by 2.5 inches. And then we are going to cut 2 at 6 by 3 inches. Oh. So 6 by 3 inches. Okay.
6 by 2.5.
Yeah, so 1 is 6 by 2.5 and 1 is, no, and 2 are 6 by 3. Okay, so you can put your trimmer away for a moment. And we need to get out our scoreboards again. So we're going to start to score on the pieces that we first cut, which are our flaps, which are these bits, which are, well, I can't remember what they are now, 3 3/4 by 10 inches. So we're going to score on the 3 3/4 inch side. We're going to have to score a little gusset because when we put the stack pockets in, we want to make sure that we've got enough room so that we can fill things in. So I would like you to score on the 3 3/4 inch side, which is this bit at the top. I want you to score at 1/2 inch, and I want you to score at 3/4 inch. Okay, so you've got 2 parallel score lines down there, and I want you to do that on both pieces exactly the same. So on the 3 3/4 inch side, you're scoring at 1/2 inch, and you are scoring at 3/4 inch. Okay, so those are your flaps, and now they both look the same, 2 parallel score lines. Your closure, which we'll have to work on in a bit, but we'll get back to that. At the moment, I just want you to score it. So I want you to score on the 8 1/4 inch side, which means putting the 8 1/4 bit at the top. I want you to score at 1/2 inch and 3/4 inch. Okay, so we've got those 2 parallel score lines there, and that gives us that bit of a gusset so that we can put lots of stuff in our pockets, and we're not going to have lots of bulges in the wrong place, because nobody wants bulges in the wrong place. So now, stack pockets. The first one, which was the smallest one, which we've got at 6 by 2.5 inches. This is just scoring like it is a basic pocket. So I want you to score on the 6 inch side at 1/2 inch and at 5.5 inches. Then I want you to scoot it round 90 degrees. So we're now scoring on the 2.5 inch side, and I want you to score at 1/2 inch. So we've got here a very basic small pocket with 3 intersecting score lines, okay? Now, these next two are the same, but they're slightly different. So we're going to start off doing the same thing. We're going to score on the 6 inch side at 1/2 inch. We're now scoring on the 6 by 3 inch pieces, okay? And we're going to score on the 6 inch side at 1/2 inch and 5.5 inches. And this time, when we scoot it round to score on the 3 inch side, I want you to score at 1 inch, not 1/2 inch. Okay, so you've got now this big sort of gap down here. Okay, so a whole inch. This is the piece that is 6 by 3. So we're scoring on the 6 inch side at 1/2 inch and at 5.5 inches, and we're scooting it round 90 degrees, and we are scoring at 1 inch. Okay, and you can put your trimmer away. Yeah, so the same but slightly different ish. Okay, so we can put the stack pockets to one side for a moment, because what I want to concentrate on is one flap and the closure. So I'm going to fold my closure first, and I'm just going to fold on those 2 score lines so that I'm making that U shape there in the end of my closure. Okay, see that U shape there? So I'm just going to get my big boner, and I'm just going to fold, make sure I've got a really good crease there. So you can see here, that is my closure, and that has now got a little gusset. Okay, and we're going to fold these exactly the same way. So we're going to fold all the way down our score lines so that these have now got a little gusset like that. Okay, so don't forget to burnish well. Ooh. Like that. Okay, and at this point, this is entirely up to you, but I'm going to just round the corners of these, because that fits in with the rounded corners on my book. So I want to keep it nice and consistent. I'm not going to do any on this bit because I'm going to show you a little trick with that later. So I'm going to do exactly the same on the other flap as well. So I'm just going to fold on my score lines, burnish it a little. Okay, so I've got my nice little gusset there, and I'm just going to do me a little rounded corner. Okay, so this is my base page that I made earlier. When I make books and I use this particular base page design, it doesn't matter, but the way that I always do it is that the flat page is always the top for me, and then the bit with the flaps is always the underneath. Doesn't really matter, but that's the way I always do it. So I'm now going to work on the top of my page. This page will go into the book with the hinge here on the left. So I'm going to start by putting my closure on the right. So here's my closure. I'm going to get some glue and I'm just going to pop it onto that flap there. So you can see here, this is where the U shape is, and I've put my glue on there. Now I just need to work out where half of my book is, which should be at 5 inches if I've done it properly. All right, so I've just made myself a little mark there, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue this. Let's take my glasses off. I'm going to glue this right onto the edge there, halfway up my page. Okay, so that is now attached to my page. It was a bit long, I might shorten that in a bit, like that. So I've got the opening here and I've got my closure there. Okay, now at this point I'm going to attach one of these flaps that fold over. So I'm going to put some glue on that flap there, and I'm going to attach this over that bit of our closure there, top to bottom. Okay, so I'm just going to attach that onto my base page. Let me just make sure that's in the right place. So this is butted up against the far right hand side of my page. Okay, so what I've got now is I've got my first flap here, and I've got my closure which fits perfectly over the top like that. Okay, now before we add this half, we need to just make sure that we're leaving enough space for our pockets. So we're not going to glue anything, but I just want you to take that first pocket, the one that we did that was 2.5 by 6 inches. And if Mel's still here, she'll love this bit. I just want you to kinky miter the corners. So when I say that, I snip up to where the score lines intersect. And instead of going straight across, I'm just going to move my scissors a little so that the mitre that I've got isn't quite straight. Because I find that that helps when I come to fold it. It means that I don't kind of get huge layers.
No bulking.
Huh? You what, sorry?
No bulking.
No bulking.
Bulking.
No bulking, yes, quite. So I'm going to do that on the other side as well. So I'm just going to snip up to where those score lines intersect. I'm just going to change the angle of my scissors, and I'm just going to cut that now. Okay, like that. So now I'm going to fold it, because this is a very plain and simple, easy pocket. So to make it a plain and simple, easy pocket, all we have to do is fold over those bits there, and I'm just going to burnish them, because that will give me a nice sharp crease, which will make my pockets look very professional. And I'm going to open this up, because I don't want to put this on until I know how wide I need it to be. So I'm just going to make a little mark with my pencil. And I'll show you, I'll bring this up a bit. I have placed that bottom pocket almost, but not quite, up to where that gusset is on the right hand side, and I've just made a little pencil mark there so I can see how wide this is. because I want to put this on next, but I want to make sure that I've got enough room to put my stack pocket in. But I don't want to glue this first because then I've got to glue that on top. Yeah, does that make sense? So I've got a mark. Can you see there? I've got a mark. I hope it's showing up. Oh yeah, it is. I've got, yes, and you, darling. I've got a mark there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pop a little bit of glue onto that flap. And I am going to line up this edge here, the edge of that flap, with that pencil mark. But I'm going to take it just slightly over. So let me just fold that down a bit. Here's my pencil mark. I'm going to add this flap on now, but I'm just going to add it. And if you line it up at the bottom, it should automatically be quite straight. But before I make sure that it's all pushed down really well, I'm just going to make sure that that stack pocket fits in between those, which it does. So let's just double check. Actually, it probably would have been easier if I'd done it this way, wouldn't it? Measured in from the left hand side. I don't know why I don't think of these things earlier. So that's 2 1/4 inches and 2 1/4 inches. Yep, so that fits in quite nicely there. Now you see, that would have been a whole lot easier. If you, it's going to be one of those days. If you measure in 2 1/4 inches from the left hand side and put your thingy in there, that would work really well. Let's just skip this bit. Right, so now I've got my flaps and I've got my closure, okay? So now what we need to do is make the stack pockets that go underneath those 2 flaps. Now we've already made that first one, although I'm not entirely convinced it's straight. So that first pocket now, on mine, in this book, I put those little thumb notches. I don't know if you can see here, that little, let me just pop that in and you'll see. So that little thumb notch. If you're going to do that with your book, mat the pocket before you glue it down. I found it much easier to mat that pocket, then cut out the thumb notch and then glue it down, because once you've glued it down, you ain't going to get a thumb notch in it. Okay? So if that's what you're planning to do, then mat this and cut your notch before you do this next bit and glue it down, okay? So I'm not going to have it in mine because I'm going to rebel. And I'm just going to put some glue on that pocket there, on those flaps. And I'm going to attach this at the very, very bottom of my page. And I'm going to centre it left to right, because this should just fit in between where these flaps are and the gussets, okay? So that is my first pocket in. Now, to make the rest of the stack pockets, we're going to cut them ever so slightly differently. So you can see we've got that inch there, okay? So that's a little bit wider. But what we're going to do is, like with any pocket, we're going to cut up to the intersecting score lines like that. And then we're going to just, I find it easiest just to, because we're cutting further, to turn it round and then cut up to that line there. So what we've got is a shape like that where the 2 score lines intersect, okay? So I'm just going to snip up to that score line where they intersect there, and then I'm going to snip up from the bottom. Now, you're not going to see this bit, so don't worry if the angles aren't the same. It really, really, really doesn't matter, okay? And I'm going to do exactly the same on the other one. So I'm going to snip up to where the score lines intersect, and then I'm going to snip up from the bottom. Okay? Are you saying ouch every time I cut something?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. I won't say it anymore.
No, I've got a paper cut.
Oh, yes, you have. Yes, poor Mark. He was packing, well, we were packing parcels, and poor Mark gets the lovely job of putting the tape on the parcels, and he got a paper cut, and to be fair, paper cuts are horrible and it is really sore. So sympathy. Not nice. Yes, he's looking for sympathy, so you know that's what the comment section's for. Right, so to make a stacked pocket, we're just going to fold those 2 bits in. That's all we do, because this is a guide. Now, I'm not going to burnish it at this point, because I have learnt after years of stacked pockets, they don't always fit together perfectly. So I might have to kind of mess with it a bit. So the idea is that this score line here is a guide. This is where we're going to slip it into this bottom pocket here, and this will form a guide of how deep it needs to go. We will attach those in a bit, but sometimes if it doesn't quite fit, we might need to, oh, of course this doesn't fit perfectly first time, that's embarrassing. I don't have to actually fiddle with this at all. So that pocket has now gone in up to where that score line was, that's my guide, and then it's fitted in between there quite nicely. So I always tell people stacked pockets don't work, and just lately they always have, which is highly embarrassing. But sometimes you might have to just kind of fiddle with it a little bit and just get, you know, just get the fold in the right place before you finalise it and burnish it. So I hope that makes sense. So to attach your stacked pocket, you're only going to put glue on 2 flaps, those 2 outside flaps there. Slip this back inside this bottom pocket up to where your score line guide is, and we're going to glue that down. Okay, so what we've got is a pocket here and a pocket here. But once again, if you're going to do your thumb notches, decorate up that pocket before you cut your thumb notch. And I would suggest that you leave a little bit of extra paper, pattern paper down there so that it slips in all in one go. Okay, so we've got those 2 pockets. So now this is the 3rd stack pocket. And we're going to just pop that in and make sure that it fits before we finalise anything. Darn it, that's worked as well. And I'm just going to burnish it. But just for example, sometimes you just have to kind of fiddle with it a bit. You might have to push it in a bit, or you might have to push it out a bit just to make sure that you get a really, really, really good fit.
Why don't you glue the bottom of that one?
Because we want to be able to put different heights of, what do you call it? Heights of tags in. So if you look at mine here, all of my tags are different sizes, okay? So I can have a variation, you know, for different photo sizes or whatever. If I glued that, I would only be able to fit those smaller ones in, because that bigger one wouldn't fit all the way down. This just gives us the ability to be able to put much longer tags in, because we're not closing those bits off. Does that make sense? So we've always got a lot more real estate all the way down. So each of our tags can be bigger than the first one. And it just gives us a little bit more room to put photos or journaling or whatever we decide. So they're kind of open pockets, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So let's just pop that in there.
Gwen says hello.
Hi Gwen. And that's glued. So now I've got a pocket here, I've got a pocket here, and I've got a pocket there. And we'll come back and we'll do all the tags and the you know, things to go in pockets at a later date, probably our last class, I would imagine, for this book. So okay, that is my closure. Now I put a magnetic closure on this. And what I did, so I know Mark's posted the link to the how to add your magnets. But what I did here was I just picked one of the cutter parts out of my papers. I matted it onto some of my plain cardstock, and then I used that just for a bit of interest to the end of the to the closure there. rather than just have the plain closure. I've just added that for a bit of interest. Okay, so that's something that you might like to do when you thank you, dear, when you come to decorate that bit. Okay, so we all right with the front there? We all good? Makes sense? Because what we're going to do next is we're going to turn over and we are going to make the belly band with the faux waterfall. So it's not going to be as technical as the waterfall that we made in the Bloom Street book, but it's a really good, quick and easy way of adding a waterfall into your book. Okay, so that's my front of my page made. And your homework, ladies and gents, is to decorate this up for next week, or the week after actually, but decorate it up as quick as you can. And now we're going to do what goes on the back. So grab your trimmers and your card, please. And we are going to cut, first of all, the belly band. And the belly band, I want you to cut at 4 by 11 inches. Okay, so that's 4 by 11 inches. Right, so that's our belly band. And now what we need to do is we need to cut the photo mats that make up our faux waterfall. So I want you to cut 8 pieces at 4 by 6.5 inches. Now a standard photo is 6 by 4 inches, so you can see where I'm going with this. You should be able to fit lots of standard size photos on this if that's what you want to do with the book. So 8 at 4 by 6.5. So that's 1, 2, and I bet that's not wide. Oh, it is. Oh yeah, of course it is. I used 12-inch paper, didn't I? Right, so that's 3. Smart that I am. Oh. 4, 5, 6, and I'm going to get a couple out of this, I'm sure. Well, I'll get one, won't I? How many have I done?
You said 6.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 7.
Yeah, you got 6 and then
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I want one more. This is going to be a lot easier on your cardstock if you use A4 size pieces, because I'm just merrily wasting this now. Right, so 8 at 6.5 by 4, and then we need to cut our closure, which is 1.5 by 6.5 inches. So I bet you I've got a piece of card left over here. Yeah, that's already 1.5 by 6.5 inches. Okay. Right. So trimmer away. That's trimmer used for this evening. And now we need to get our scoreboard. So we're going to score the belly band first. And the belly band we're going to score on the 11-inch side. So that's the 11-inch at the top. We're going to score at 1/2 inch and at 10.5 inches. Okay, easy. Each of the photo pages we're going to score, I bet you can't guess. We're going to score on the 6.5 inch side at 1/2 inch, and that's the same on each of them. So score on the 6.5 inch side at 1/2 inch. And then finally, we're going to score our closure. We're only going to make one score mark on here, and we're going to score on the 6.5 inch side at 1/2 inch. We don't need a gusset on this bit. Well, I'll show you why, but we don't. Okay. Right. So that's all of our scoring done tonight. So first of all, what we're going to do is we're going to fold our belly band. So I want you to fold on those score lines, top and bottom. Just give it a good burnish so that we've got a good sharp crease. Okay? And now I want you to do exactly the same on all of the other pieces. So the closure, just fold on that score line and crease. And then each of these photo mats, we're going to fold on that score line and then burnish it. Okay, get a good sharp crease because it will lie flatter and look better if you get a good crease on it. Okay. And we're going to do that to all 8. Is it me or is it really warm in here?
It is very warm.
Oh, I'll tell you what we didn't tell them. What happened after class last week? The Great Escape.
Oh.
3 of our cats are indoor cats. Loki, of course, you know, love of my life. He's very handsome, but a little bit stupid. And he doesn't always think things through. So I can't remember exactly what happened, but after class, we were in the craft room and we'd had the window open, which is fine because Mark sits right by the window. But something had happened and Mark had called me and I had to go downstairs in a bit of a rush, and it just hadn't occurred to me to shut the window. I don't know why, it just hadn't. Now underneath the window is our conservatory roof. And Mark and I are in the kitchen. I honestly can't remember what was so important. No, you don't know either. Well, anyway, and we heard this noise on the conservatory roof, which actually isn't that unusual because we get a lot of big birds other than magpies around here, like doves and stuff, and they like to walk on top of the conservatory and upset the cats because, you know, that's fun. And we heard this bit of a kerfuffle on the conservatory roof, and it just sounded a little bit heavy. And then when we went to look, this bird had 4 legs because there was 4 feet on the conservatory roof that we could see, because it's like an opaque glass thing, so you can't see right through it, but you can see that there's 4 feet. Anyway, it suddenly dawned on us that this was Loki. So I ran upstairs to try and get him to come back in.
He's terrified of being outside.
Yeah, he's this is the thing, he's terrified of being outside. So I tried to get him in, but I couldn't reach because it was too far down. Mark's out the back with the big ladders, which he's just now covered himself in water off these ladders, and Loki just wouldn't come. So anyway, I'm just going to round my corners while I finish this story. Yeah, so every time I went to grab him, he slipped. And then Mark had this really bright idea, engineer. Ran upstairs, got a towel, threw it out of the...
Hung it out.
Yeah, hung it out the window like Rapunzel. And in comes Loki, but my God, the racket he made.
He was wow.
He was so terrified, so terrified. But he knows he doesn't like going outside. So I just don't know what he thought he was doing. Anyway, that was our excitement. Right.
Wow.
It was just like that. It was awful. Okay, right, so I've now rounded the corners of all of my photo mats, and I have got my belly band here. So belly band is going to attach to the back of our book with those flaps there, but what I'm going to do first of all is I'm actually going to attach this faux waterfall first. So this flap here, I'm going to pop some glue on it if it hasn't dried up already. And I'm going to glue this right to the very, very, very top of the belly band. It should fit straight across. Just going to line it up and make sure that it does line up with that belly band. And now I've got my first part of the waterfall on my belly band, okay? Right, so this is the easiest waterfall in history. Second piece, pop some glue on the same flap. And what we're going to do is we're going to open up that bit there, and we are going to line up this top bit of that photo mat up with the bottom of this flap. So don't attach it up to the fold, you're attaching it up to the bottom of the flap. That is what is forming our guide, okay? So let me just glue it on and I will show you what I've done. Okay? So, this is my belly band. I've attached my first photo mat to the very, very top because it's going to sit on our page like this. And I've made sure that it lines up side to side. I opened it up, and where that fold was that attached to the belly band, I've attached the next photo mat to the bottom of that folded flap, using that as my guide, making sure that this is still straight so that when I close my faux waterfall, it all looks nice and tidy. Okay, so we're using that bottom of the flap as the guide of where to attach our photo mat. Okay, are we all right with that? I haven't got my glasses on, so I can't see. I've no idea. Yep.
Seems to be.
Yep, we're good. Well, have you all gone quiet because you're horrified at Loki's escape? Or, oh, it said, oh no, I'm hanging around. It says new comments 42. I'm still on big boners. Right. Okay. So, and we're going to do the same again, and we're just going to keep going with each of these photo mats. Okay, so we're just going to attach it, make sure that it lines up with the bottom of that flap, and then obviously side to side. And I'm just going to fold those down each time because that's not quite straight, as you can see. And I'm just going to make sure that that gives me a nice clean line all the way down there. Okay, and I'm going to keep going with that with all of my photo mats. Okay, make sure that's lined up. Yeah. Okay, and then just keep going. Until we've got them all. Oh, that looked a bit, is that too wide for the, yeah, it's not far off. Okay, just keep folding it back, make sure everything lines up and looks right, because you don't want a misaligned waterfall, it just looks messy. Okay, keep going. Nearly there. All the way down. Okay, and now my last one. Attach that up to the bottom of that flap. Just make sure that fits. Yep, there we go. And that's our faux waterfall. Now, we've got a little closure, which I put a magnet on and I put the cutter part on in exactly the same way as we did on the front of the book. So I'm just going to pop a little bit of glue on that flap, and I'm going to attach it to the bottom of the inside of this waterfall, the bottom of the belly band in the middle. You can measure it, but you know, I'm just going to wing it because that's the way I roll. Oh. Although it does need to be straight, kind of helps. So now that will form a closure, and I'm going to put like a cutter part on there and a magnet. And like I said, Mark's linked in my video of how to attach magnets, which you might find useful. So, okay, now what we need to do is we need to attach this to the back of our page, which I've lost my page. Where's my page? Oh, there it is. Right. So that's the front. I'm going to turn my page over and I am going to attach this to my book by just putting some glue on those two flaps that we folded earlier on the belly band. And I am going to attach these in the middle of the back of my page. If you want to measure it by all means. I'm just not. I'm willing to wing it.
It's handmade.
Yeah.
Any news on the trimmers?
No, they still haven't come in. I think we encouraged too many people to buy them. I'm still looking at August, but I'm working on it. I have them in my basket. I'm just going to wait for them to come in. And unfortunately, they don't take pre-orders. So, right, there we go. So that is page 2. So we've got our front. You might have to trim that down a bit. Just trim half an inch off it. We've got a stack pocket and the flappy bits. And on the back, we've got our belly band and we've got our faux waterfall. Okay? So, homework for this week, ladies and gents, is to decorate that up, or at least base decorate it. So, you know, put your cutter parts on your closures. Just put your papers on. We can do all the fancy embellishments later once we've put these pages into our book. So, there you go. That, I think, should do... Oh, 1 hour and 2 minutes. I'm seriously impressed because I thought we'd go way over tonight. So that is page 2 done. So decorate them up and we will see you back in here next Thursday at 7 o'clock when we will be making page 3. Not page a word 4. Mark. No, page 3. It'll be part 4, yes. Page 3.
I got confused earlier.
Yes, and you confused me earlier as well. But anyway, not to worry. Good evening, Bianca. Right, okay. Right, I will see you, next Thursday at 7 o'clock. Thank you ever so much for joining me. If you've got any questions, you can easily contact me in the group or, you know, send me a message, whatever. And I'll see you guys all really, really soon. Thanks for joining us. Bye.
Ooh.